Hi, and welcome to the Root To CISO Bite-Sized Podcast. I'm your host, Kris Rides, and in these bite-sized episodes, we'll be speaking to experienced cybersecurity hiring managers. We'll be asking their advice on how you can stand out from the crowd to make the career moves you desire. Hi everybody, and welcome to the Root To CISO podcast. It's Kris Rides, your host. I'm back with another bite-sized episode, and I'm excited to have a good friend of mine, Nick Bruno, with me, who you'll probably recognise if you've listened to any of the previous CISO episodes. He was one of my previous guests, and now I get to have him on bite-sized. So thank you for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having me again. How you done?
Yeah, good. It's been good. Good, exciting start to 2026. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you because, well, I say I'm excited. We've had this conversation and I was like, we should do a bite-sized episode about that. And you're like, yeah, so we're going to have the same conversation again, but we're going to record it.
It was only 24 hours ago, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff, mate. Well, look, thank you again. Do you want to let everybody know what you're currently up to? What's paying your bills?
Yeah, so currently CISO SVP of IT at SHL, which is an HR SaaS company focused on talent assessment, talent management. Got global responsibility for security, IT, business systems, which is Salesforce and ERP ecosystems. And what's changed since the last time I've been here is now I have DevOps and FinOps responsibilities around cloud infrastructure. So not being able to say no gets me in trouble.
There we go. We're not going to talk about not being able to say no. we know that that's already. If they can throw anything else at you, you know, who knows?
I'm just going to take it and just learn.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to be also head of talent acquisition because then that'll be good for me, right?
No, let's not just say no.
Well, look, let's jump into our conversation because
Yep.
we'll only have a quick chat about it. But I know we were talking about, you know, bringing value to business, bringing value to stakeholders and what you sort of do, especially this being the beginning of the year. And so maybe we'll start with you just sort of saying a little bit about the story that we were talking about first of all and what you've been up to.
Yeah, I mean, it's what, 8 days into the new year, and kind of part of my initial kind of approach is to see what the executive team is doing and what's on their mind and what's their objectives for the first half of the year, and not to really be too concerned about talking about risk and only things that I'm interested in trying to address, but really try to figure out how I can help them and how I can be a partner from the business standpoint, which is what we do all the time anyways. But it's really
Hmm.
just diving into what's top of mind and really how I can dive in and help out whatever the actual topic is. And yes, you get into what's keeping them up at night. It could be something that's recent, they heard over the holidays, whatever it might be. But ultimately, they have their objectives that they need to execute on over the next 30, 60, 90, even the first half of the year. But they've structured that out and they're down, now they're starting to trickle down to their teams. And my main thing is, all right, how can I get involved and how can I help? And yes, I will align with some of the stuff that's been talked about before from a risk management standpoint and really the interest from the security technology team. But ultimately, it's a refresh. All right, let's just dive in and see where I can help.
Yeah, and it's I think when I've talked to so many CISOs and you know, adding value and being a good listener, understanding the business, like all of these are skill sets that a CISO needs, whether you know you're a current CISO or it's something you're aspiring to, or even if you're earlier on in your career, like these are the sort of conversations you need to be having because if you understand the business and you understand the stakeholders, you can provide value, and then hopefully people are thinking of you know the cybersecurity team as not the cost center but the enabler, right? And that's so important.
Exactly. And the enabling aspect that's the most important. And I mean, many that know Larry Whiteside Jr. that's gone through various of his talks and all, and his approach, he always says, well, understand how they get their bonus. Tie
Yep.
your objectives to what they're doing, help them make their objectives, they will help you. There's no other way to put it. Like, understand how the executives and the team is going to be getting the bonus, how they're incentivized to get this, and then ultimately you align with that, you'll get your stuff done as well, and you'll probably address a few risks along the way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Larry's great guy. Was our very first Root to CISO season one, episode one guest,
Got to get him back on.
um, and a good friend of ours. Yeah, I should do actually. I need to get on to him. But the bonus thing's interesting. I had somebody else who's who's a CISO at one of the big oil and gas companies, and that's what she told me. And I think I've spoken about it a few times on here, but yeah, she basically went down the route of like, let's sit down. What are you bonused on? Because whatever you're bonused on is what the company is obviously targeting for you to do. And I want my security to be something that helps you achieve that rather than stops you. So I think
Exactly.
there's.
Especially
Go
when
on,
you take
sorry,
a
mate.
look at like objectives, business objectives that trickle all the way down to the individual contributors. Everything should be aligned, and there's no other way to do it than really understanding how the executives are going to ultimately get paid if they meet their objectives. Now, when you tie in, again, alignment with risk and other things from a security and technology standpoint, makes it a heck of a lot easier discussion when you actually talk about, well, this is how it's going to impact your objectives. We should try to figure out how to make this work.
Yeah, and I feel like from a career point of view, even from a senior leadership point of view, right, building relationships, building bridges with stakeholders is a great way to ensure that you're looked at positively within the business. But then when it comes time to sort of maybe be looking elsewhere and be wanting to move elsewhere, those people are moving as well, right? And if they go somewhere else, often, especially at leadership levels, a lot of those roles, a lot more roles get filled like directly by people recommending them,
Hmm.
whether that's other stakeholders, whether that's a CISO that takes their deputy CISO with them or whatever it might be. Like, so building those relationships are important internally, but also externally for your career.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if mentioned it when I was first on, but it's like I was afraid of executives growing up with early in my career, and it was probably the stupidest thing that I could have done by not wanting to be in front of the executives and talk to them and actually get to know them because, and I talked to a few of them that from the early 2000s that I didn't want to talk to then. I talk to them now, and I've built that relationship with them, and I've missed out on opportunities because they've gone to three or four different roles since then. And I think if once you build that rapport, you get the credibility, you show that you're interested in learning new things and willing to stretch. That's where those opportunities come in play. I mean, and perfect example is where I am right now. My current manager was my CTO at Monster.com. He's
Right.
now the chief
Yes.
digital officer, and this is why I can't say no and just take on everything because, and it's probably more of a dump and run, but ultimately, I had fraud prevention and security there. I took on IT there. When I came here, I got IT, I got business systems, security, and then I got the DevOps and the FinOps aspects because I'm heavily involved with anything, and I have the credibility that I can take on something new and figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, and you've proven yourself, and that's what there's. I've had this. It's funny. I had this conversation. We had a bit, obviously a bit of this yesterday already, but I suppose we spoke to a couple of other people, and we were talking about like building that level of trust and acceptance. And yes, there is an element of knowing when you say no, right? Not saying yes to everything, but also being somebody that you can trust, right? Knowing that you've got somebody that when they say yes, they will absolutely deliver it. Even if they said yes and then it's like, oh boy, okay, this is a bit bigger than what I thought. Well, I don't want to let them down, right? And I think becoming that kind of asset's so important.
But it's also when you feel that you are in over your head, you're not afraid to
Yeah.
say, hey, I need help. And it's the support aspect that you can rely on because not everything is, hey, just go figure it out and let me know when it's done. Because again, it's a two-way street at the end of the day. You need to go back to objectives. What's the main objectives? How does this actually align to the business? There's certain reasons why you're going to be provided something. And if you can't do it, say it. And it could be you don't have enough capacity, you don't have enough knowledge, you don't have, I mean, whatever it might be. It could also be you don't have the resources to execute. You're not saying that it's impossible. You just know you can't do it in the current state and you need to figure out how to get it done. And you usually talking to somebody that has given it to you has an idea, all right, well, how do we tweak it this way? What about if I put more resources on here? Oh, wait, maybe we should get an external consultant to help out because we just don't have the expertise in-house or we don't have the time or whatever it might be. But taking on something new isn't a bad thing. Knowing before it's too late that you need help and the support and to talk through it, that sometimes it could be scary because you don't want to be seen as always saying I can't do something because it's not the case.
Right.
It's just knowing when you need help and asking for it, and also even talking to your peers. I mean, there's a CISO community in Boston is pretty small, but like the CISO community in general, nationally, I mean, we all talk to each other at the end of the day, and there's a lot of core groups that go to conferences and whatnot. I mean, we all stay in touch.
Yeah, I'm
Asking
on
our
WhatsApp
peers,
chats. I'm on CISO
exactly, and
chats.
just
You
saying,
are, I
hey, I need
know.
help, and somebody will say, let's talk, and
Yeah,
that's how
and
you
actually,
learn.
you brought up a really good point there because there is a difference between somebody that either says yes or struggles in silence, right? So they say they'll do something, and then because we trust that they're somebody they've always delivered, or part of that is also that they've always been open enough to turn around and say, do you know what, struggling to get this done, I'm gonna need some support, there's a couple of extra things that come up that we weren't expecting, and knowing that, because there's also, like, you don't want to eventually fail, and not have had conversations, right?
Yeah,
There
exactly.
is, not, you can't do everything. Like, there's no super people out there, right? There's no real true superheroes that can do everything, and you kind of need your people around you to help you, and you need to have bosses where you can make a commitment and you can also explain how you're going to go about doing it. And if something changes, or there's going to be a change, you don't keep struggling in silence. You go and speak to them about it.
Yeah, don't wait until the deadline comes up or when
Right.
you're doubling the cost from an expense standpoint. Like, as soon as you figure out that there's a challenge, talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep the communication going. I like that. And I think, probably not bad to flip it on to, also people that are earlier on in their career. Like, put your hand up for stuff, right? That's how you become like the internal unicorn, right? You see a gap, you see something that needs help, go and ask, like, is that something I can help with, right? It's an ability to learn more. And in the current market also, potentially not, put yourself out of the bracket when potentially people are looking to maybe lay off people. If you're somebody with a unique set of skills, right? That unicorn, that it would be hard to lay all of that piece of work off. You're creating some job security there as well.
Yeah, and it's also as opportunities come up, if you have an interest in learning something new, doing that before the opportunity actually is in front of you to go apply for from a talent acquisition standpoint or talent management standpoint. I mean, you can do security or any type of role as part of your normal job. And all you have to do is say, hey, I want to learn.
Yeah,
There's not gonna be anybody that says, no, I'm not gonna, we don't need the help, we don't want to train. Like, part of how the security community kind of, at least how I grew up, is I kept asking for things that I didn't know and how I could help, and also not being able to say no. But I didn't want to be a firewall admin when I was early in my career. But I took on everything else nobody else wanted, and I had no clue at that point. You had to figure it out, but you also had to ask. But you had to stretch yourself. And I think, like, even with my current security team and whatnot. It's a relatively small team, but I've extended it to my service desk and others throughout the entire organization that has an interest. Like, they
yeah,
want to do, it doesn't matter, vulnerability management, incident response, security monitor, like, they have an interest. I will spend time with whoever that wants to learn, and then eventually, when there's an opportunity, and I've hired or promoted 3 or 4 people from my service desk into my DevOps team or to my security team or even in an application development team. And just because they showed an interest, they may not have the skills right now, but they'll get them.
yeah, yeah. And often that's the way people find themselves into positions or roles or areas of interest that they never even would have touched because they didn't know about it, right? They didn't know it would be something they would be interested in. So
Well, it
it's
goes
good for
back
the
to being
person.
added, like adding value. Like,
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it's like, how do you add value to an organization? Doesn't matter what level it is. You have an interest, you can provide help. That is adding value.
there we go. All right. Well, there is our adding value bite to root to CISO bite-sized episode done, right?
Exactly.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank
Well, look,
you.
mate, appreciate the chat, and we are recording season 3 at the moment of the Root to CISO podcast. So, for our listeners out there, if there's a CISO that has had a pretty interesting career and would make a good person to have on here, a good guest, please let me know. In the meantime, Happy New Year to everybody. Nick, we will be catching up again soon, I'm sure. But
Absolutely.
thank you for joining me with this, mate.
Thanks for having me again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening to the Root to CISO Bite-Size Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you keep an eye out for Season 3 of the full Root to CISO podcast. And in the meantime, stay up to date by liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing to our channel. Thank you.